My wonderful listeners, welcome back to the episode 101 of the Languages Pedagogy podcast. This episode is going to be another wonderful episode where you will find more new ideas, new concepts maybe, or a whole new level of story here. We're going to have another wonderful and great teacher, great guest. This time, we're going to be talking with Kyle Manning, an expat teacher living in Japan, who's going to tell us a lot about what happens in Japan system, maybe a little bit, how that works there, and maybe, why not, some advices. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you this topic, grammar versus communication. Do you really need perfect grammar to speak fluently? Let's get the words fluently go to your ear and let's hear what Kyle has to share to all of us. And let's get started.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kyle. So it would be really good if you can actually introduce a little bit about you and let the audience know who you are.
Okay, yeah. Well, my name is Kyle, as you said, and I am originally from the United States, Texas. I live in Japan now. I teach English as a second language. I teach out of home, actually. I don't teach like for a school or for a business like a traditional setting. I just work for myself, and that's it in a nutshell.
Oh, that's pretty good. That sounds really good there. So you work for yourself there, right? So you got your
I
own
do.
school or something like that? Like,
Yeah, I teach out of home. My students, I have one nursery that I go to once a week, but other than that, all of my students come to me for ranging in age from 5 years old to recently. I had a lady who was here and she was like 78, turned 79 just a few days ago, but she eventually quit. I mean, she's still a friend of the family, but she decided it was time to hang up the lasso and go ahead and
that sounds really good, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good then. So where are you working right now? In which country are you now?
In Japan. I'm in Japan.
How's education there? What do you think about the system there for language learning?
Well, I think there's a large conversation that could be had. I don't think language education is their strong point. For example, math and other areas like that are probably quite strong when it comes to language. That's not, they're a little bit weaker in that area.
Oh, I got it. I see it. Well, but it is something that people can still actually feel it like it's necessary, or you actually feel that people don't actually see it as something necessary to learn language.
They amazingly, they feel like it's very necessary to learn not only foreign language but specifically English. I think they look at it more in a pragmatic, practical sense. That, of course, there's the being able to speak a foreign language. There's that factor of the cool factor. But,
exactly.
But other than that, it's English is kind of the language of the world. It kind of helps the economy stay country to country. Everybody
exactly
learns English. Fair or not fair, I don't know. I'm fortunate that that's the language I was born into, so I'm very lucky.
Well,
but yeah,
that's
they do find it very necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's the point, because sometimes it's like, well, some people actually believe that learning a language right now it's not like that necessary because they have already the AI. That's the big boom
Right.
right now, right? AI is right now the big boom.
Ah,
That's the new teacher, right?
mm, yeah. Um, while I think that AI can be extremely useful in patching some spots, in communication, there is something that it just cannot fix, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Um, that takes me back to high school when I was taking French in high school.
Got it.
And I remember after a while of speaking French for so long, even though I was saying the exact same thing of an English equivalent, but just the fact that I was saying it in French, I kind of dropped my whole emotional model attached to whatever it was I was saying, um, and and I saw it in a whole my feelings, just my internal neurological feelings of how I felt about something when I said it in
Yeah.
this other language, and when I could digest it in that language, even though I was never fluent in French, but I got to the point where some expressions felt native to me,
Got it.
and it was like my neurological self just kind of shifted to a different personality, different person. And the reason why I bring that story up is because while AI can assist us in kind of sending messages back and forth, until we can kind of shift our neurological feeling of what it means to actually communicate in that language, there's a lot of cultural gaps that'll get missed. We'll just continue to shout from our own cultural
Exactly.
standpoint and never actually understand why. Well, I mean, AI can be pretty polite sometimes, but I think there's some gaps
Exactly.
that need to be filled by actually learning to speak it to a certain degree, whatever you're trying to communicate with.
I
Maybe.
actually bring up this a little bit of tricky question, let's say, because I was actually talking to another teachers about this issue, and
Hmm.
it's pretty interesting that you're actually living in Japan.
Hmm.
The language over there, it has different type of politeness. Different
Hmm.
type of
Hmm.
politeness. If you refer to an old man, or I don't know, old woman, I don't know, a young, a brother, father, I don't know. You get
Right.
different, like sort of a level. I would say,
Hmm.
I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
there's like this type of a politeness. If you're actually addressing to a 90-year-old person, you're gonna actually
Hmm.
refer to that person in a one way or using
Hmm.
specific words.
Hmm.
Am I right?
Yeah. No,
But
that
that is
that's right.
something that the AI cannot do, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how far along they've come on that, but unless you tell it, hey, the person I'm talking to is older than me, or they fit this category, it's going to have a difficult time. Um, Even just in some simple grammar issues, for example, just I mean, I'm stepping away from your question, but just to address the complexities that the AI can't solve. Um, like for example, in our language, English, we will use words like he and she,
Yes.
pronouns that means that I'm talking about a male or a female. And in their language, they will drop the subject altogether. So they will
Ooh,
just say, uh, "I went and ate dinner,"
wow.
and we know what the topic is because of the previous context of this conversation. But AI can't pick that up, and sometimes it'll just throw a he in
Exactly.
there when the other person was talking about a she
Exactly.
or whatever, and it just can't map
E-
it very well.
Exactly. That's pretty curious, and it's good actually to ask you this question since you're in Japan. I guess your Japanese level is quite high, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
If
mean,
we if we put him like in A1 up to C2, what can be your level?
actually, I forget which is the because we have a different system over here. A is the top, the best, or
No,
A or C
C.
is the
C2 would
top
be the best. Yeah, the
best.
top.
Okay, I would say I'm around. Let's see, you got C, two levels of C, two levels of B. I'm probably the somewhere in the B's, maybe the upper
Oh,
B.
wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I guess it's pretty
Mm.
hard language, actually. And since you're actually doing that and you're learning that language and you got a level over there, it actually matches really well with the topic that I would like to discuss with you today,
Mm. Mm.
which is grammar versus
Yeah.
communication.
Mm.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit
Yeah.
about it. Do you really need like perfect grammar to speak fluently? You got your groups and you got your students
Hmm.
in X on X, right?
Hmm.
And maybe I don't know what's your approach there. What do you tell them? Grammar
Well,
over fluency?
um, I kind of have a mixed bag of tricks and thoughts on that particular
Oh,
topic. And I say it's mixed because it goes both ways, but grammar is no doubt important, it's necessary. But the question is, to what degree of perfection, of precision do we need to communicate and communicate well?
exactly.
Um, and I would say it doesn't have to be perfect to communicate well. It is not the number one factor, but it is a factor. You do have to have a little bit of control of the grammar, because the grammar, the way I explain to my students what grammar is, what it really means is, it's like if you have a tree with leaves and branches, all of the leaves are like the words.
Exactly.
If I say, if I have, restaurant, spaghetti, waitress, or server, or whatever, these are the leaves on the tree. But now, what is the relationship between all of these words? Did the did she did the waitress, did the server throw the spaghetti at me in the restaurant outside? So we have to be able to put the branches in there to some degree to paint a picture of what happened. But it doesn't always have to be absolutely perfect to be able to communicate those ideas. Going back to AI, I'll give you a
Yeah.
perfect example of what I
Yeah.
mean by that. Sometimes I just get, we all use AI sometimes, right? To ask some questions, do some research, find out something. And we can get caught in two different modes. One where we're trying to type perfect grammar, uppercase I, apostrophe M,
Oh,
I'm,
got
space,
it.
and then
Yeah.
sometimes we get tired. We're like, AI knows what I'm trying to say.
Uh,
I don't need to do all that. I can just kind of shortcut it,
exactly.
and it understands what I'm saying. So if AI can understand what I'm saying, why can't I understand what someone is saying if they're not using perfect
Exactly.
grammar?
Well,
So
that's a really good case there. That's a really good
mm,
example there.
mm, yeah. So we don't have to have perfect grammar, but there is a degree where it has to be good enough.
Got it.
And I would say the 80-20 rule, 20-80 rule, whatever you call it, you know, use the 20%, learn the 20% that we use 80% of the time, and you will probably be okay. The other edge cases, the other outlier cases, you will kind of
Yeah.
learn on the street as you develop your speaking muscles.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a good one there. And it's actually really good that you're telling us a little bit about it. Because our audience, it's also students. We got a lot of students actually that follow our channel. That's pretty
Mm,
good. And it's very important that you're mentioning this.
mm,
But of course, this is the case to students who are learning English, right?
right.
Which is, I think it applies different for students who wants to learn Japanese or Chinese.
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
that's a different system there. I think grammar it's quite important a little bit more maybe because if you make a mistake, maybe the whole thing just changes. Can be. And this episode is brought to you by Worldwide Teachers, getting ready to teach, getting ready to learn. And here we have the first one, Kao Manin.
I'm Kyle. I live in the northern part of Japan where the snow falls deep and the bathhouses are famous. My journey began in Texas. In 1988, I first set foot in Japan during my service tour. After that, I became a software developer here. Later, I returned to the United States, where I continued my work in software development. It was there that I discovered my passion for teaching, traveling across the country, sharing my knowledge of software technologies with major corporations and government agencies, including NASA. This path led me back to Japan, this time to teach English. Now, after more than 20 years living here, I coach English from my home to neighbors of all ages, from 5 to 78 years old. But for me, education is not just about teaching English. It's about coaching a mindset. I believe there is nothing a person can't do. If I can help you see that you can hold a real conversation in English, you might start to see other dreams as possible too, dreams that once felt so distant. If you're ready to unlock your potential, I invite you to connect with me.
Yeah, but I would say that to some degree it's still, again, you have to have that good enough so that someone else can make the leap to understanding. If you narrow the chasm just enough so that someone can reach across and pull you over, then you're good. But if it's too wide of a gap, they're going, I don't know where you're going with
Exactly.
that.
That's yeah.
So, like if you're speaking in nouns only, if the nouns only form a picture that there could only be one scenario, like if I say, I eat restaurant spaghetti. Okay. I mean, you can probably patch that together and go, okay, maybe he's saying he eats spaghetti at a restaurant regularly. Maybe that's what he's saying. Or maybe he ate yesterday.
Exactly.
I'm not sure, but I kind of get an idea about where, what he's talking about. So with my students, I in Japan, you asked a question about speaking a language like Japanese, and we'll talk about that. But I know that speaking English for them, they put so much emphasis on grammar to the point that they drown in it, and they can never speak the language. I've had high school English teachers be my students, and they will show me some of the things that they have to give their kids. And I'm like, I couldn't even pass your quiz or your test because the grammar is so
intense
and
too
mundane.
deep.
It's not helpful to a conversation.
You got it.
And a lot of times I think they make the mistake of thinking that by having this superior Shakespearean grammar level that somehow makes them better with business English or something like that. And I'm like, it doesn't. Coming from the business world first before I became an English teacher, often we'll see like job descriptions that says, are you a good communicator? And
that's
that doesn't
another
mean
key.
It doesn't mean is your grammar good. Of course, if your grammar is good, it's helpful, but it's really about, are you able to comprehend what someone else is saying and speak in levels, whether you have to break it down or abstract it up to communicate an idea so that someone else understands it. That's really what communication is all about. Businesses, in the end, they're about making a profit. They don't care about you writing.
Whoa, you mentioned something over there. You're opening the Pandora's box. Oh my goodness. All right. It's true, because then we're gonna actually we're gonna have to start a debate over here just about which one goes first, like grammar first, communication first, or let's see, because it's more profitable, it's very good for my pocket, let's do it like in this way, it's better, right? That's kind of the system that actually works for some schools. Let's go straight forward to the some of the schools are like that, right? They actually just see, okay, why don't we just make up some levels over here? Let's add up like 6 levels just to the basic, and let's just add 8 levels to the intermediate, and let's go 6 more levels to the upper, just to teach more grammar. But that's the debate. What's first, grammar or communication? And I think the approach that you have over there is pretty much communication.
Yeah. As far as the country is concerned, because we call it, English conversation. Like even like when people go to, and when they say they're going to English school, they say they go to a kaiwa, which means English conversation, and it means that we're not concerned about grammar or anything else. We want to go there and just talk, listen, communicate, and do it like that. And that is a common strategy over here. I don't know how comfortable I am with recommending that, but that is the theme over here of. And I'll explain why I think. You take a young child, a baby who's born. Now they're not just coming out of the womb giving speeches. Give me the mic, right?
Yeah.
I got something to say, and now that I'm here on the stage, let me let me say what I got to say. They're not doing that. All of a sudden, their ears, their sensories are taking in this information, and they eventually get to the point where they can make a sound. But there's there's a period of time where they got to do that, and then slowly they're going mama, papa. And then all of a sudden, they're busting out a sentence of like, I want milk, or something. And but the thing is, they're in the environment listening to so much information come at them from different angles that eventually they can say, I want milk. So conversational style can absolutely work if the conditions are right. If you can actually put yourself in a baby's shoes and be willing to walk in a baby's shoes, you can do it. You can do it. It's absolutely great. But most people don't have that patience because they're like, I want to learn now. I'm going to sit down in front of you. You're going to talk to me, and all of a sudden I'm going to go somewhere and just start espousing English literature.
I've seen them. I love because I've seen that. I've lived that experience actually here.
Right. So on the other hand, if we start from grammar and some vocabulary, some basic structures that says, hey, here is a basic ABC pattern, learn it, flip, just change the words in and out, and now you can say with this one pattern 10, 20, 30 different things.
Definitely.
It's not a baby's native way of learning it, but it puts them on a faster path to being able to communicate. But it has to be practiced in a communicative style. If they don't practice it live, they've got to.
Yeah, I think that's actually that actually happened to everyone. I mean, regardless of the age, it happens. You stop practicing, that's it. Goodbye. The language is gone. That actually happened to me as well. Well, first of all, first-hand example of what you just said with one of the teachers actually here, because we have these type of teachers that are, I don't know, I think they believe they're the super teachers of the world. I'm a grammarian and all that. I know all the grammar. You gotta speak like this. This is the way. And they sit down. They just, the flashcard teachers or the grammar teachers just do it like this. Communication doesn't matter. You know actually how to use the language with a perfect grammar. That's it. And I've seen them, but I don't see any like advantage of doing that. I haven't actually seen, not even. Let's say, if I have to put an example, a 6 years old kid learning grammar, I don't see any result in the near future.
Right.
But if I see someone with the approach that you're actually saying, like just talking, like make it like more immersive, let's say like that, we give the space actually to do it. I see a little bit more there.
Yes. That is absolutely foundational. That you have to be able to have the space for someone to communicate. Now, throw culture in there. I don't know about China, where you're at. Here, my system has changed over time because I've had to meet the student of where they're at culturally. They, like you and I were just talking, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're in China. We're both, American, but you throw a question out there, we go at it, we start talking. Then, I mean, you could start off with like, so what did you do today?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, they know what you said,
Yeah.
but they just don't really, either they're afraid of making mistakes or they don't want to just jump in there and just start gobbling up the conversation. I mean, there are some that do, but culturally, there's a fear factor, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Is this thing that you're saying can bring me to this question, can this grammar problem then, is it a grammar problem or communicational problem, is a barrier to confidence when speaking then?
It's their fear of generally getting the grammar wrong or using the wrong vocabulary somewhere in there. It's their fear of getting it wrong. And of course, there's only a couple of things that you can get wrong. One is the grammar, one is maybe the wrong vocabulary. But it's the fear of getting it wrong. But because, as in my opinion, as I said earlier, there's a certain level that you have to get the grammar right, but the only way you're going to get it right is by going through the loops and just doing it repetitively so that you can, it's like riding the bike, right?
Exactly.
You have to get on and keep falling over until eventually you go, oh, here's the balance point. Now I'm kind of feeling
and that's it.
But you have to do it over and over. And that's where they fear, I think, about doing it, about just taking control. I used to have, when I first started teaching for myself, I used to do a lot of listening exercises, and they loved it because they didn't have to speak a lot.
Yeah.
I had a TV show that I cut snippets off of, like 1 minute segments, and I would print out the dialogue. I'd go find the dialogue from the internet, and I would print it out, and I would mark out the word so that they couldn't read it, and they had to listen and find what was the word they used in these different spots in here.
Oh, fill in the gaps.
Yeah, fill in the gap. And they loved it because now they were really having to, because all they had to do was use their ears, and it was a comfort zone for them.
Exactly.
And then, as soon as I start to ask a question about the script, or, just to kind of get the dialogue conversation going, yeah, they're like, oh,
lost.
Yeah. And even though they may have, this is a culture where having your own opinion is not the popular thing,
yes.
Social opinion rules.
Yes.
So eventually I had to change my system just on my own because I wanted them using their mouth more than their ears, balance-wise, just to offset their cultural issues. So now I have drills that I actually have them go through, where they have to practice, and it uses a subset of fundamental, 80-20 rule, fairly simple grammar stuff, and it's just some drills that they do. And they're happy with that because now I'm not asking them to just think of something to say.
Yeah.
All they got to do is just say, just say this drill, and they're like, "Yeah, I did it." I'm like, well, I mean, it's putting you on the road forward, but now we need to get you with the courage to swap out words into that drill, and
but it worked actually.
It works. It does. It helps. It's very helpful.
Oh, well, that's the point. And now that you're saying about this, the output, because we got the speaking and also the writing.
Right.
What's the difference there? Because they don't want to actually open their mouth. But when they have to write, do they make that mistake? Or is it a total different story?
As far as writing, I don't know if you're referring to the script I referred to earlier when they were listening, but I used to actually use a lot more writing. I eventually stopped, but I had them create a kind of a journal. And all they had to do was just write down daily
Creative
And some
writing.
people, yeah, creative writing. Some people would come back and just, I mean, they would have like, because it's like 1 week intervals, they come to me once a week for 1 hour. And so there's like 7 days in between. And it's like, I went to work today. I went to work today. I went to work today.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, so that wasn't very useful here. But then some people will go off and write like a big long thing.
Yeah. But they're
And
not that afraid of making mistake when writing. That's
in
my point,
writing,
right?
yeah, right, exactly.
Because both
Writing
are actually output skills.
output, yes.
Yeah. But in this case, that's what I'm saying. So when they speak is when they actually stop. Totally
Right.
unmotivated. I don't know what
Unmotivated.
exactly the word actually to describe
Scared,
this
yeah.
situation, but scare, exactly. So
Yeah.
this one, but when writing, they actually show the skill. You can see that they can write without any mistake or grammar mistake, right?
Well, they still got mistakes, but still, it's putting them on a path to recovery. You know, they're able to
Got it.
a path to get corrections, and it's much better than what they're speaking because they're not saying much. Yeah. So
Exactly.
So your point is well founded that it is a good exercise of output that has more volume, especially in my case compared to their speaking volume. And I eventually stopped doing that because we were spending almost like such a large portion of the lesson, and we only have like, my lessons now are like 40 minutes, but 40 minutes to an hour, and we were like correcting most of the little things in there, and then some people just didn't want to do it, and so
Yeah.
forth, and it kind of faded away. But I really liked it because I did it for a while. I did it for a few years. People would write their journal. Mostly only adults. Kids just won't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a different story there.
Yeah.
But at least, I mean, reading, image reading, picture reading, that can actually help as well. I actually do it with the little kids that I have as student. It can really help and make it. Yeah,
about it.
yeah, and then they can actually tell me exactly, oh, what happened here or something. It's like, oh, she eats ice cream, whatever, or she eat ice cream. Even if they're actually making the mistake over there with the S and everything, but they actually try. That's
Right.
picture reading that can make them speak a little bit more, speak out without that fear of being judged, or it's like, oh, you're speaking wrong. Bye.
Right.
Yeah. Because that actually happens a lot, especially with the big ones as well. I got a TOEFL student. I don't know. Do you train kids or students for TOEFL or IELTS exam?
Not specifically TOEFL, but over here we have a Japanese test, but also TOEIC.
Oh, that's from TOEFL. Yeah.
Okay. TOEIC.
TOEIC.
Yeah. Is it TOEFL? Yeah. Everybody talks about TOEIC over here.
Yeah.
And then they have their Japanese brand
standard exam
test. Yeah, standard exam, which I'm not a big a proponent of here, because it uses a lot of times you can go into the test and you can see that it was made by Japanese.
Yeah, Japanese. Yeah.
I mean,
local teachers.
Yeah. Overall, it's still pretty good. I mean, it's not like just horribly filled with mistakes or anything like that, but there's some little things in there where you can catch it sometimes and go, yeah.
We're gonna put it like everything's horribly with mistakes and everything. Well, I think that's actually from the region, I would say, because I pretty much feel exactly the way you feel with the exams here. The English exams here, the national standards exam are quite hard to read sometimes. Kind of cringy, man. You're reading and you start like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. But they actually pay too much attention to it, because what they do in schools here, at least, and I can see there is quite the same, is like everything needs to be like too systematic. Did you enjoy it? What are your thoughts about what Kyle shared on this episode? This episode was full with lots of information about system, educational system, exams, international exams, and personal experiences. If you really like this episode, please don't forget to leave your comments on the comment sections below. Don't forget to subscribe also, rate, and also follow us if you're really interested about languages, about pedagogy. And don't forget that this episode as well, it's a part 2 series. So make sure to tune in next Monday for the part 2. If you really like part 1, you're gonna love part 2. And as I always say, keep learning, keep teaching, keep enjoying, and keep discovering the world of languages.